Hi everyone, it's Kent Barber here from Game Logic Design. Today what I'm going to take you through is using 4D Publish, DemEarth and Cinema 4D to create a PDF document using geographical data. So this is the end result that we'll end up getting, or close to this, because I'm going to be starting from scratch. And you'll have a fly through here which will fly over the land. And we'll have another button which controls just another camera movement which is going to spin around the top of the mountain there. Just going to close this down. So this is created again using DemEarth. So DemEarth is cinemaplugins.com. That's where you'll find DemEarth right there, and it allows you to get all the topographical information around the planet, as well as extra additional information such as texture maps and road maps and all sorts of very useful information. Just come there to grab that. And you'll also need 4D Publish, which is at 4dpublish.com. So you can see 4D Publish there, and there's a load of features in 4D Publish, including the 3D PDF export, which is what we're going to be taking a look at today. But there's lots of stuff there, lots of videos and examples explaining how to do everything, and even more tutorial examples up under here to help you get up to speed on using the 3D PDF exporting. Also, actually, there's also documentation here. So if you want to know what the documentation is like, just come under Support, Documentation, and you'll come up to an online version of the documentation that'll take you through how to use everything inside the 3D PDF exporter. Okay, so let's get back to it. So here we have Cinema 4D, and DemEarth is under here, and we're going to go DemEarth object. Now this is already going to bring up the location of the map because I've already used this to do my little demo example. But if you want to use a different location, all you need to do is come into Google Earth, find your location in the world. So this is Mount Ruapehu in the middle of the North Island, New Zealand, where we all go skiing in winter. And just right click and go, what's here? Come down, click on that, and now you can just grab that location and copy it. And then all you need to do in DemEarth is come in and just click paste, and it's going to set the location there. You actually did see that change, so that maybe that was a different location. So you saw that change there, and it put in the longitude and latitude coordinates. So this is Mount Ruapehu in New Zealand. Now the next thing we want is we actually want textures on this. So to do that, we come over to Map Loader, enable that option there, which means that we're okay with the copyright issues in here. And then go download texture layer, and it's going to download it. Now that was very quick on my computer because this has already been cached. But what you'll be seeing is a little message over here saying it's downloading a number of texture maps, and that may take a few seconds to maybe a minute or so to download them, depending on the resolution. The resolution is set to 13 here. So this is Mount Ruapehu in New Zealand. And isn't that fantastic? It just downloaded it, loaded everything in, and it just looks amazing. It's great. Next thing we want to do, though, is we want to just fix this up a bit because I don't actually want this rectangular shape for this particular example. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to change the width to 1000. And then I'm also going to move the mountain just a little bit to the side. Now you don't want to use these things here. You just do an offset and it will work the way you want it to. So let's just kind of center that in the middle there. Maybe we can bring the mountain over a little bit as well. So that's about right. I think that's okay. Maybe a little bit less. There we go. So now I want to create my camera movements around this. So I'm going to come up and I'm going to create my first camera. First, we'll just get a starting location, somewhere about there. This is just going to be a simple fly through. The animation is not going to be that amazing. I'm going to do 150 keyframes. So keyframe a position there. And then I'm going to switch to navigation, camera mode. I'm going to just zoom in a bit, maybe 30. Create a new keyframe. At 60, I might just navigate over a little bit. 90, let's do another little move around. Again, this isn't going to be anything incredible. I'm just roughly doing this. Another small movement about there. And then we'll just finish off with, maybe we'll come over to here and zoom out a bit. Okay, so that will be our first animation. Just a kind of a flying around there. Now we want a second animation as well, and I'm going to do that using some splines. And I'm going to make a camera fly around the spline and attach to it. So I need two. I'm going to need two splines there, but first we'll just start with one, and I don't want to be editing that camera actually, so we'll just get out of that. And let's create ourselves a second camera, and we'll call this spin. We'll call this first one fly, actually, fly over. And I'm going to add a line to spline and drag that in there. And I want to animate this for the entire length, so I'm going to go 0, and then at 150, that's going to go around a full 360 around the model. Oh, well, 100. Now we want to make sure that camera actually looks at the correct thing as well. So to do that, we'll just duplicate this circle here and make that bigger. And drag that into, turn on tangential, and we'll drag that into the rail. And then we need to come under the axis here. We need to switch that to X. So now our camera should be looking where it's meant to be looking. Just have a look here, see where it is looking. Okay, and I'm going to switch to a full screen here, and I'm going to change this to look through that camera so we can actually see what it's looking at. And now I'm just going to adjust those splines to make it look kind of where I want it to actually look. So let's bring up that one. I'll leave that down there. And we will bring this rail one up. And then I'll bring that one up as well. And I'll make it a little bit wider perhaps. So let's have a look. Look through this viewport here. Let's turn on the texturing. You know what, I'm going to make those even wider. So I'm going to make that come out, and I'm going to make this one come out. That's better. Okay, so now we've got our two cameras set up, so let's just jump back into this one. Now, 40 Publish doesn't export this actual DEM Earth object itself. It needs to be turned back into the polygon object. So to do that, what we're going to do is just going to right click on this, and we are going to say current state to object. Then I'm just going to, well, we can just hide this. And we'll open this one up. And we don't actually need the strata too. So the strata is the base bit down there. So I'm just going to delete that. And there we have our object. Now I'm not sure if we need both of these either, so let's just have a look if we delete that one. And that's looking fine as well. So that's our scene. So next thing we need to do is we need to set this up so that we can export out to 40 Publish. So we go to the page designer, create ourselves a PDF, add a page to the PDF, and we'll drag on a 3D view here. And I'm going to create two buttons under that view. One button here. I'm just going to click and drag to create a second button, and we'll maybe move that in a couple. Okay, and both these buttons, I'm going to give them some rounded corners. And the first one will be called Fly Over. The next one's going to be called Spin. So the Fly Over, if we come to the PDF tab here, we just need to drag in the Fly Over camera. And for the Spin, we will drag in the Spin camera. And now on the Fly Over button, and actually both of these buttons, we can go to the PDF button tag. We want to turn on animation, and we want to turn on animate camera. And we want it to go the full length, so we just go 150 keyframes. But for this first one, I want it to ping pong, so it's going to go one way, reverse, and go back the other. And for this next spin one, I just want it to loop endlessly. Turn on loop. You've also got options to reset at start, so when it's finished, it goes back to the start frame and stops. The other one is stop at end, so when it finishes its animation, it stops and leaves the camera at the end frame. But we're going to use these other two options for now. So that's really all we need to do for this. The last thing we could do is just add a image for the background image in here so that you can see it when you first load the file. So to do that, we're just going to drag in the flyover image, and it's going to use the image from the current frame here, and it's going to do a rendering at that location. So now what I'm going to do is I'll export that out. So I come up to PDF, and I go d/temp/dem2. Maybe it's dem3, it might be what I'm up to. And we'll just export at that. Although if we wanted to, we could password protect this as well. We could turn that on. We could require them to enter a password to load the file up. And then we can also enable permissions here to stop people from doing things. So you can stop them from printing it and copying things out of it as well. But we're okay with anything that people want to do with this PDF, so we're just leaving it as it is. We'll just click export. So it exports out the PRC file, which is the file that's embedded internally in the PDF, and then it'll export out all the buttons and the animations and everything for the cameras. So we just go open file, and here's our result. Now we just click up here. This will bring a little warning. You just come up and you go trust this document, and then you just click in here to enable the 3D view. Now one thing you'll notice here is this toolbar up here. We'll get to show how to remove that later. But you can just click in here and rotate your scene. Click on here, you'll have your flyover, which is that amazing animation I did. And then we've also got, you can see there it's doing the ping pong, the reversing of the animation, and then it'll do it again. And then we've also got our spin here, so we can click on the spin, and this is just going to be, doesn't look like it's doing it. So the spin is not working, so let me just have a look at that. Let me just go back and see what we did wrong. So we go close. So let's have a look at that spin. The issue with the spin here is that the 4D Publish only exports out keyframed animation. Now, if you don't have any keyframed animation on your object, you need to tell it to specifically export that, sample it as it goes. So we use an export tag for that. So if we just put an export tag on this camera and just say export the animation, you don't need that, but we can leave those on anyway. And now it's going to tell that spin camera to sample its animation. So this camera doesn't specifically have keyframes. The keyframes are all on this tag itself. So now when we export, we're going to get that out. So let's just test that. So even I get these little gotchas every now and again, but it's all in there and it can all be solved. So let's just test that again. We've got our flyover. Now if we click the spin, we've got our spin around the top of the mountain there. Now, I also talked about removing that toolbar. So we'll do that as well. We'll come up to the 3D view. And if you click under the PDF view tag, on the PDF settings, there's show toolbar. So we can turn that off. But first I might actually show you what that toolbar actually does. So let me just load the file up again. So I loaded the file up again, and that toolbar is there. If you click on this toolbar, you're going to see the tree view on the side. So this is all your objects that you've been exporting. Now, we've only got one object in the scene, really, which is just the DEM Earth object itself. So there's not much to really navigate around, but you can see it's been selected there in the view. So that is what that tree view does. So we don't want this in here, so we're just going to get rid of that, and that's what this option does. And while we're here, I'm also going to turn on transparent background. So it's going to put this model on a white background at the moment. So we'll turn on transparent background, and now let's export that and see how that looks. Now it's also brought it in with the image in the background. There's our two camera moves. If you want to get rid of that image in the background, you just need to remove it from here as well. So we'll come into this shape here, and we'll just clear the camera preview. So the camera preview is now gone. And we can put something interesting in the background here as well if we want to. Let's just put a plain color. Or we'll just leave that blank. Let's see what that looks like. I still had the render. So even though we cleared it in the view, it's still rendering a preview. So we just need to turn that off as well. And now we can export. So when it exports, if that option is checked, it does a high quality rendering and puts that in the viewport as well. So here we have our model here. Now if we hadn't trusted that before, then you would need to click in here to enable it. But because we have, it just comes in straight away. And now we can just click fly over. And we can click spin. If we want to go to the other camera views, click pause to pause the animation, and you can navigate. You can also come up here and go and find your views. So there's the view from the spin, there's the view from the flyover, and there's the default camera, which is what the viewport is looking at itself when you actually export. Okay, so that's it. That's exporting out topographical data using DemEarth, Cinema 4D, and 4D Publish.